Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia-Ukraine fight on multiple fronts as fierce battle continues in Kursk region. Zelensky says we are strengthening our positions. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken departs for Israel to push for Gaza ceasefire deal. Thailand's Paetongtarn Shinawatra takes oath as Prime Minister, promises to serve everyone equally and wholeheartedly. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates the youngest leader. US presidential race heats up as both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris campaign in key state of Pennsylvania. In a rally, while Trump calls Harris a socialist lunatic, Kamala's running mate calls Trump working for ultra-rich. And Arsenal and Liverpool win English Premier League's opening day matches. Joshua Zirkzee gives Manchester United reason for optimism in the season. News in detail now. As the fierce battle between Russia and Ukraine continues in Kursk region, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian troops were strengthening their positions in Kursk and called the captured territories an exchange fund, implying they could be swapped for Ukrainian regions occupied by Moscow.
The operation is proceeding exactly as we planned. The bravery of Ukrainians is achieving great things. We are now strengthening our positions. The bridgehead of our presence is becoming stronger.
And now in its second week, this is Ukraine's deepest incursion into Russia since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion more than 2 years ago. Ukraine's surprise cross-border operation has resulted in more than 1 lakh people fleeing to safety. Meanwhile, Zelensky renewed his call for Ukraine's Western allies to allow long-range strikes on Russia.
We are doing everything possible to provide our soldiers with the necessary weapons and reinforcements. In this context, it is crucial that our partners remove barriers that prevent us from weakening Russian positions in the way the course of the war demands. Long-range capabilities of our forces are the answers to the most important and strategic questions of this war.
Now, safety at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is deteriorating following a drone strike that hit a perimeter access road on Saturday, according to International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi. The Russian management of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant said a Ukraine drone dropped an explosive charge on a road used by staff. Russia has been in control of Zaporizhzhia site, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, since soon after it launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The plant is dormant as Moscow and Kiev have repeatedly accused each other of trying to sabotage its operations and endangering safety around the plant. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is traveling to Azerbaijan. This marked Putin's first trip to the Caucasus nation since 2018 and occurs as Russia aims to reassert its role as a mediator between Azerbaijan and its adversary, Armenia. DD India's Dasha Charnishova has more from Moscow.
Further development of Russian-Azerbaijani relations of strategic partnership and alliance is expected to be discussed during Russian President Vladimir Putin's two-day state visit to Azerbaijan. The Kremlin says during the negotiations, Putin and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev will also discuss current international and regional issues. The sides are expected to adopt a joint statement of the heads of states and sign a number of documents. Last week, Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu visited Baku. He said that the West threatened the security of South Caucasus by interfering into the affairs of the region. Putin last visited Baku in 2018, and Aliyev recently said Russia-Azerbaijani ties are an example for the neighboring states. A senior Russian lawmaker, Leonid Slutsky, said that the visit confirms the high level of strategic partnership between Moscow and Baku. Slutsky said the prospects for the cooperation between the two countries are steadily expanding across the entire range of cooperation in economic, political and humanitarian spheres. He also said that the two countries are staunch supporters of the establishment of a multipolar world order. Putin's visit comes against the backdrop of heightened tensions in the region and Russia's souring relations with Armenia. Aliyev last visited Moscow in April. Dasha Chernashova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is all set to arrive in Israel amid increased diplomatic efforts to reach a deal to end the fighting between Israel and Hamas and free Israeli hostages. This is Blinken's 10th trip to West Asia since the conflict began in October last year. The top U.S. diplomat is expected to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. Gaza ceasefire talks in Doha, mediated by the U.S., Qatar and Egypt, are due to resume next week. And a statement from Netanyahu's office said Israel's negotiating team had expressed cautious optimism on the possibility of advancing a deal. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Friday, following 2 days of talks in Doha, that efforts to reach a deal were now in sight, although he warned that negotiations were far from over. And thousands protest in Caracas against Venezuela's election results. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado addressed the crowd, evoking the protesters and international and Venezuelan government to recognize opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner. The country's electoral authority has said President Nicolas Maduro won his third term in July 28th contest with just under 52% of the vote. But the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, has published online what it says are 83% of voting machine tallies, which gives its candidate Edmundo Gonzalez a hearty 67% vote. The election result of Venezuela has sparked widespread protests globally. Thousands in Spain's Madrid and Florida's Miami recently joined protests against Venezuela's election results. Thousands of people have taken to the streets to express their outrage and concern, to call for justice and transparency. As the situation continues to unfold, the protests show no signs of abating, with demonstrators vowing to keep up the pressure until the demands for a legitimate and fair electoral process are met. As the U.S. presidential race becoming a close contest between the two rival candidates, the Republican Donald Trump has increased the pitch of his attack over Kamala Harris. Pennsylvania is their latest battleground, where both are trying to tilt the voters' mood for the polls on November 5th. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump was campaigning in Wilkes-Barre in northeastern Pennsylvania on Saturday. While in the poll surveys, Trump's percentage is going down in comparison to Kamala Harris. Trump questioned the credibility of these predictions. The former U.S. president even took pot shots against Harris in personal teams that does not generally sound in good taste. He tried to convince his voters that beating his Democrat rival Kamala Harris will be easier for him than the former Democrat aspirant, President Joe Biden, who had performed badly in presidential debate with him.
Polls and this stuff, and I'm at like 93%. I said, so why are we having an election? They didn't have an election. Why are we having an election? But I believe she will be easier to beat than him because she's a truly radical left lunatic.
As Kamala Harris' running mate and vice presidential candidate Tim Walz was campaigning in Nebraska, back came the reply from him about Trump's allegations and pot shots. Addressing the rally in Nebraska's Omaha, Tim tried to corner Trump on his economic agenda. The Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim said the former U.S. president was just a corporate-friendly man. He worked for the ultra-rich and will do more for them if he came to power again.
When he tries to play dumb about this 2025 plan, I coached football for enough years. When somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they plan on using it. He knows what this will do. Restrict our freedoms, rig the economy for the ultra-rich by punishing the middle class, If he returns to the White House, he's going to pick up just where he left off. But the people around him who worked with him the first time are already telling us it will be much, much worse.
And Vice President Kamala Harris, too, is readying herself to respond on Trump's assertions soon in the same province, as she would conduct a bus tour of Western Pennsylvania starting in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Her Sunday response to Trump will be crucial, as she has to attend the Democratic National Convention the next day, where she will formally accept the party's presidential nomination, and she will try to attract the confidence of her party for the presidential turf in comparison to the former president. And Thai King Maha Vajiralongkorn on Sunday formally appointed Paetongtarn Shinawatra as Thailand's new Prime Minister. It will pave the way for the formation of a cabinet in coming weeks. Paetongtarn arrived hand in hand with her father, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, at the Pheu Thai Party headquarters to attend a royal endorsement ceremony a short while ago. Paetongtarn said she will continue with all the policies that the former Prime Minister Shreta was doing. She said her government will try to stimulate the economy, combat illegal drug problems, improve universal health care. On the issue of her father being part of the government, Paetongtarn said she has not considered a formal position for Thaksin in government but will seek his advice. And 37-year-old Paetongtarn has become Thailand's youngest Prime Minister just days after Ally Shreta was dismissed as Premier by the Constitutional Court. She is the third Shinawatra to be Prime Minister, but will hope to avoid the fate of her father and aunt, both of whom were thrown out of power in military coups. Meanwhile, Paetongtarn Shinawatra's father, who is Thailand's former Prime Minister as well, Thaksin Shinawatra, received a royal pardon shortening his payroll by 2 weeks, and it happened just a day after his daughter was elected Premier by the Parliament. Thaksin has been at the heart of a 2-decade power struggle between the Shinawatra family and its allies on the one hand, and on the other, a nexus of royalists, generals and old money families that have long wielded influence over Thai governments and institutions. After a dramatic return last August from self-exile to avoid jail time in the wake of his overthrow in a 2006 military coup, Thaksin served 6 months in hospital detention due to health reasons. Later, he was released on parole in February, but after his return, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for abuse of power and conflicts of interest during his time in office from 2001 to 2006. His sentence was commuted to 1 year by King Maha Vajiralongkorn last September. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Paetongtarn Shinawatra for being elected as Thailand's new Prime Minister. In a post on X, PM wrote, and I quote, "Congratulations, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, on your election as Prime Minister of Thailand. Best wishes for a very successful tenure. Look forward to working with you to further strengthen the bilateral ties between India and Thailand that are based on the strong foundations of civilizational, cultural and people-to-people connect." Unquote. And the leaders of South Korea, Japan and the United States issued a joint statement on Sunday marking the anniversary of their summit at Camp David and reaffirmed a pledge to jointly tackle regional challenges. The statement issued by South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol's office said the principles on trilateral cooperation established at the summit last year continues to serve as a roadmap for the three countries' cooperation. US President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Yoon met on August 18 and agreed to deepen military and economic cooperation and take a united stand against China's growing power and security threats from North Korea. And Mpox cases are on the rise globally, with the African Union Health Agency reporting 18,737 suspected or confirmed cases in Africa this year, including 1,200 in just 1 week. This week, the first case outside of Africa was recorded in Sweden and Pakistan. DD India's Isaac Lucando has more.
Nearly 19,000 Mpox cases that have been reported this year include 3 strains of the virus. One strain, the new and more deadly clade 1B, has prompted the World Health Organization to declare an international health emergency. In 2022, Mpox outbreaks occurred in over 70 countries that have never previously reported the disease. While vaccines and treatments helped control the virus in wealthy countries, doses remain scarce in Africa. This year, a potentially more infectious form of Mpox was identified in a mining town in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo's cases have surged, and at least 13 African countries have reported new outbreaks. The WHO says it will soon release recommendations from its emergency committee and has called for increased vaccine production. The global health body describes Mpox as a viral disease that spreads from animals to humans and through human-to-human contact, with symptoms including fever, muscle aches and large skin lesions. Isaac Lukando in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
All right, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar visiting Kuwait on Sunday. Bilateral talks, global issues on table. The 24-hour nationwide strike called by the Indian Medical Association ends. Health Ministry to form a committee to ensure healthcare workers' safety.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Media platform X closed its operation in Brazil due to censorship orders. Elon Musk-owned social media giant X on Saturday announced that it is shutting down its operations in Brazil with immediate effect in response to what the company described as a threat from Alexander de Moraes, a justice of Brazil's Supreme Court. Earlier this year, Moraes ordered X to block certain accounts as he investigates so-called digital militias that have been accused of spreading fake news and hate messages during the government of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro. And Hurricane Ernesto knocked out power, downed trees and flooded parts of Bermuda on Saturday, but the British Island territory appeared to have escaped major injuries or property damage. The Category 1 storm unleashed powerful winds and whipped up 35-foot seas, leading to power loss for 71% of the territory's 36,000 customers. The center of the storm is forecast to approach southeastern Newfoundland in Canada late on Monday. Maximum sustained winds blew at 75 miles per hour and were predicted to hold at that speed for another 48 hours, after which they should weaken, the U.S. Weather Service said. And wildfires engulfed swaths of western Turkey, triggering the evacuation of nearly 4,000 residents. Helicopters and water bombers, which were grounded due to strong winds, were brought in to battle the blaze on Saturday in the resort city of Izmir on Turkey's Aegean coast. Authorities confirmed there were a total of 131 wildfires at agricultural and forested land in western Turkey over the past week. About 3,950 acres of land have been affected. The fire in the western province of Çanakkale have threatened the region's significant historical sites, had originated from a spark caused by a faulty roadside electric relay. And moving on to other stories, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar visiting the state of Kuwait on Sunday. During the visit, the minister will meet his Kuwait counterpart Abdullah Ali Al Yahya. He is also expected to call on the leadership of state of Kuwait. The minister's visit will enable both sides to review various aspects of bilateral relations, including political, trade, investment, energy, security, cultural, consular and people-to-people contacts, as well as exchange views on regional and international issues of mutual interest. And Vice President of the Gambia, Mohamed B.S. Jallow, arrived in New Delhi for the India-Africa CII Business Conclave. The conclave has emerged as one of the largest congregations of senior ministers, policymakers and business leaders from Africa and India, cutting across sectors. Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, in partnership with Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Commerce and Industry, initiated the Africa Conclave on India-Africa Partnership in 2005. The 19th edition of the conclave will aim to serve as an instrument for Africa's growth and the role of India-Africa Partnership in regional and global value chain integration. The 24-hour nationwide strike called by Indian Medical Association in protest against the rape and murder of the women doctor at Kolkata's RG Kar Medical College and Hospital has ended. Meanwhile, after a meeting with the IMA and other doctors' associations, the Union Health Ministry has announced its decision to form a committee which shall suggest measures to ensure the safety of healthcare professionals in the country. The association also wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi demanding safety and pressed upon the 5 commands or demands including a Central Act and airport level security. And West Bengal government has revoked the transfer of 42 doctors 24 hours after it issued the order. The recall order followed an intervention of Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. There were allegations that the transfers were targeted at faculty members who protested the rape and murder of the trainee doctor at a state-run hospital. Meanwhile, the investigating agency CBI is probing the case after it was transferred from the Kolkata Police by the Calcutta High Court on August 13th. Now let's take a look at other stories making news. Traffic has resumed on the railway track where 20 coaches of the Sabarmati Express passenger train derailed near Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh state on Saturday. Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that the train's engine hit an object placed on the track and derailed. An investigation into the incident is underway. Organized by the National Book Trust India, the 9-day-long Chinar Book Festival is underway in Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar. This is the first of its kind mega festival organized by NBT. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund India Unit has praised Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav's initiative for promoting menstrual health among adolescents in the state. Under Chief Minister's leadership, the state has implemented various programs aimed at breaking the stigma surrounding menstruation and ensuring that adolescent girls receive the education and support they need to manage their menstrual health with dignity. And India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is set to convene a crucial review meeting on Monday to assess the performance of public sector banks and regional rural banks. This meeting aims to evaluate key financial metrics and effectiveness of various government schemes, ensuring that these financial institutions are aligned with their economic goals. Finance Minister, along with other participants, will review deposit growth, the credit to deposit ratio and asset quality, which are vital indicators of banks' health. The meeting will also cover initiatives for micro, small and medium enterprises, performance under government schemes, recent interventions and any pending issues that require attention. Sports now. Will start with football. A late goal by new signing Joshua Zirkzee earned Manchester United a nervy 1-0 victory over Fulham in their Premier League season opener at Old Trafford. Home supporters were in a buoyant mood ahead of the first games of English top flight campaign, with 4 new signings unveiled on the pitch and new faces in the United boardroom also in attendance. Just as they did at home for much of last season, however, this time around United struggled to break down their opponent in the first half, with captain Bruno Fernandes going closest to breaking the deadlock. Towards the end of the match, Joshua Zirkzee tugged home a cool finish at the near post to seal all 3 points. An English football club, Arsenal, kicked off their Premier League season with a solid 2-0 victory over Wolves at the Emirates Stadium. Kai Havertz put the Gunners ahead in the first half, nodding in Bukayo Saka's pinpoint cross from the right. Saka then doubled their lead after the break, unleashing a powerful left-footed strike into the far corner. Despite not being at their sharpest, Arsenal always appeared in control and deserved their win against a resilient Wolves side. Wolverhampton debutant Jürgen Klaassen had a chance to level the score in the first half, but his header was expertly saved by Arsenal's goalkeeper David Raya. New Liverpool coach Arne Slot began his Premier League journey with a 2-0 victory over newly promoted Ipswich Town on Saturday. The game saw second-half goals from Thiago Jota and Mohamed Salah, giving Reds manager Arne Slot a solid start. In the first half, Ipswich Town matched Liverpool stride for stride. However, they couldn't capitalise on their chances. After half-time, Liverpool stepped up their game. Jota broke the deadlock at the hour mark. Just 5 minutes later, Salah finished off a slick move to secure the win. Although Liverpool had several more chances, 2 goals were enough to see them through a challenging opener. And Barcelona started their La Liga season with a win under new coach Hansi Flick. The Catalan Giants defeated Valencia 2-1. Hugo Duro gave Valencia the lead just before half-time, but Robert Lewandowski equalized for Barcelona moments later. After the break, Lewandowski scored again from a penalty after Rafinha was fouled in the box. 17-year-old Lamine Yamal was a standout player, causing problems for Valencia with his dribbling. Despite some mistakes in midfield and Valencia's counter-attacks, Barcelona controlled the game and secured victory. Now Catalans will face Athletic Bilbao next Saturday. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.